Arlington is faced with a crisis that calls for a town-wide response, but the best hope for the town's overall health and economy hinges on a strong and swift public health response to the coronavirus outbreak. It's a crisis that has all but hemorrhaged many small businesses and restaurants throughout the town, disrupted government, and closed Arlington schools. Tonight, we talked to the town manager and other officials about Arlington's response to what the World Health Organization has deemed a planet-wide pandemic. This broadcast was edited on March 20th.
From McLennan Park to Spy Pond, from Poets Corner to the Mystic River, we have Arlington covered. We're your neighbors, a friend you can turn to. This is ACMi News.
Good evening, and welcome to this special edition of ACMi News. I'm Jeff Barn. Out of an abundance of caution, we are now doing our weekly broadcasts outside of our studios in remote locations simply because ACMi studios have been closed off to the public until further notice. Just one of the many changes you're going to be seeing throughout Arlington in the next few days and weeks as we try to minimize the spread of the coronavirus. Now, town leaders are saying as things stand now, as of this broadcast, there are now 5 presumptive positive cases of coronavirus in Arlington. Presumptive positive meaning that they have been verified by the State Department of Public Health but have yet to be confirmed by the Centers for Disease Control. This obviously is a planet-wide pandemic that has disrupted the lives of millions of people, and quite obviously, the town of Arlington is no exception. A brisk, sunny Monday in Arlington during business hours. The 77 bus carries just 2 passengers. A FedEx note is left at the front door to a now locked town hall. Playgrounds are empty near Spy Pond on a sunny, mild afternoon. Town center sidewalks, usually bustling with people at this time of day, are virtually abandoned. Just some of the signs that things are anything but normal here in Arlington, and indeed most of the country, as municipal, state, and federal leaders try to minimize the spread of this coronavirus. It is a virus that is advancing very easily and sustainably, what medical experts call community spread. That means people who have become infected with the coronavirus within a certain community, including those who have no idea how or where they became infected. So public health officials are strongly discouraging activities that promote gatherings of people. To stem the tide, Arlington school closures are now extended through April 6 in conjunction with a governor's state order. Town hall administrative offices are closed off to the public. Most business affairs are now being conducted online or by phone, as staff at Town Hall is kept to a bare minimum. Trains and buses will be running with reduced service to allow for social distancing. Most buses will be running on weekend schedules until further notice, and you should check with the MBTA before you venture out. Governor Baker issued an emergency order limiting gatherings to 25 individuals and prohibiting on-premises consumption of food or drink at bars and restaurants beginning on March 17th, and that's effective at least through April the 6th. Supermarkets and pharmacies will remain open, but like most other parts of the nation, this sign at Arlington CVS lets customers know COVID-19 test kits are currently not available. Meantime, supermarkets try to keep up supplies with the increasing demand for certain goods. There is a noticeable shortage of certain foods and supplies at the Stop and Shop in Arlington, namely milk, juice, sugar, canned goods, and toilet paper. All this as fully stocked trucks in the back try to replenish the supply. Just a few adjustments we have been making in recent days, and proof that Arlington is certainly not the same town as it was just 1 week ago. Earlier this week, I spoke with town manager Adam Chapdelaine, and we spoke at length about what exactly the town of Arlington is doing to minimize the spread of the coronavirus.
So taking advice from our local public health officials and then in coordination with the state, as I'm sure many people know, schools have been closed for 2 weeks now by the governor's order, 3 weeks. We've closed playgrounds to limit social gathering. And the governor also has closed restaurants for on-premise dining, so it's only takeout and delivery at restaurants. So we've tried to take as many restrictive measures now in cooperation with the state as possible to limit people's interactions, limit people's gatherings, so that we can flatten the curve of those who get infected by the coronavirus.
Right now, we're in the beginning stages of this. What are you hearing from government officials, town government officials, maybe state officials, also school officials? And have you been hearing from the business community as well?
So I would say I'm hearing most from people saying, please put as many restrictive measures in place as possible. That is the most common email I'm receiving. I'm also hearing people or seeing people writing to me asking about town meeting, asking about the election, asking about public meetings, and we're trying to work through those things right now. The governor has given us an ability to hold public meetings remotely so that no one has to attend. We can do it all either via conference call or via some type of online communications platform. And we're awaiting further relief in terms of what relief for town meeting might be possible, as well as relief for the elections. But generally, I think we have a compliant population that understands these restrictions are in place for a very serious reason.
Are you hearing anything from the business community? Obviously, restaurants, to take out only, some people could buy some gift certificates, but they're going to take a hit. Is it still too early to tell how much are going to be affected, and what have you heard so far? Again, we're in the beginning stages of this.
So I myself have not heard directly from members of the business community, but we have appointed Allie Carter, the Economic Development Coordinator, as our main business liaison. So she, starting today, has been reaching out to businesses, letting them know about the restrictions that are in place, and starting to process on what type of stabilization programs we might be able to put in place to protect them as best possible. I'm sure as the next few weeks go on, I will start to hear from the business community, as I'm sure state officials will as well. But we are thinking of them, and we are trying to plan for what the best way as town government, what the best way town government can do to help them.
With Charlie Baker's announcement over the weekend, you're prolonging the closing of town hall and taking these other measures with businesses and whatnot. As far as town meeting is concerned, and as far as election day is concerned, what's your strategy as of now? And of course, that could change from day to day.
So I think we have to continue to act with the best information we have. The election's about 2.5 weeks out now. I think we need a little more information before we can make a definitive call on what to do with the election. However, we can't really do anything without legislative relief, because absent a court order, the election cannot be canceled or postponed. That said, given that a lot of our election workers are elderly and therefore in the vulnerable population, I don't think it would be responsible for us to call a lot of them out of their homes and interact with a large number of people on election day. So we're still in an information gathering phase, still waiting to see if legislative relief can be granted, but we hope to know more by tomorrow or Wednesday to share it publicly to see exactly what the plan will be. For town meeting, sitting here today, I think given everything we know, it's quite likely that town meeting would be postponed. And the governor has filed legislation to make it very clear that the moderator would have the ability to postpone it based on a public health emergency, which we are currently in. That's not been decided yet, but sitting here today, given what we know, again, I can't see us being able to launch town meeting on schedule.
We've been through a lot of crises. I've never seen anything like this. What are you hearing from residents? I mean, they're very concerned. I was talking to Captain Richard Flynn at the APD earlier today, and there was a concerned woman there. Just, hey, what do I do? How do I contact police if I need help? She was elderly. Yeah. So what are you hearing from residents?
People are concerned. I mean, people, I think they're reading the charts that the Globe is making available, in the New York Times, and so on and so forth. And I think people are understanding that they have to take this seriously and they have to protect themselves. And even if they're not in the vulnerable populations, their loved ones are, right? They don't want to bring this virus home to their child who might be asthmatic, or to their parent who is in the vulnerable population from an age perspective. People are taking it seriously, or at least from what I'm seeing, people are taking it seriously. And I think that's our only hope of flattening the curve so that the hospitals don't become inundated and we can get through this together as a society.
Last week, you were understandably behind closed doors day after day after day, and things were changing every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Who are you in touch with? It's not like, I'm sure you're not getting, you're in touch with health officials, but as far as getting pockets of information and looking for that leadership or that help that may be needed down the road, you're pretty much in touch with the state along with health officials?
Yeah, so I would say I have an internal lens and an external lens right now. Internally, the response is being led by the Department of Health and Human Services. So under Christine Bongiorno's direction, she's the Director of Health and Human Services. Also working with her is Natasha Waden, who is the Director of Public Health. They are the two leading brains behind all of this right now. The two of them and their staff are tracking the positive cases in Arlington. They're tracking contacts of those cases, quarantining those people to do everything we can to continue to try to contain the spread of the virus in Arlington. So internally, they are the two main people I'm working with. On the team is also Chief Kevin Kelly, Chief Julie Flaherty, Superintendent Kathy Bodie, Sandy Pooler, the Deputy Town Manager, and Human Resources Director Karen Malloy. Sandy and Karen have been great looking at the operation of all the town departments and coming up with plans with each department for how we're going to operate over the course of the next 2, 3, 4 weeks. So that has been primarily my internal lens. Although I would add the other key part of the internal lens is our communication strategy. Joan Roman, our public information officer, has been great in putting together the communication that we're putting out. And our goal is to put out a piece of communication every day, 5 p.m., same time, same format, so that we can get into a rhythm of updating the community on what's happening. On the external lens, Christine and Natasha have been working with the Department of Public Health and the CDC. I have been working with a group of mayors and managers in the region, working with Joe Curtatone in our neighboring Somerville, as well as a group of suburban managers to our north and west. And we're in constant communication on a text chain. We're sharing emails. We're sharing best practices, comparing what each community is doing. And yesterday at 5 p.m. on Sunday, we were on a conference call with over 130 communities to try to coalesce around how to best urge the governor to take more comprehensive state action in terms of school closures and even restaurant closures. And while we were on the call, he made that announcement. So I think we've been part of this movement to grow the number of communities that are taking it seriously, and it culminated with the state making announcements, thereby taking it very seriously.
We're in the beginning stages of this. It could get worse before it gets better. There seems to be light at the end of the tunnel. What would you like to tell the residents of Arlington? We heard your phone call last week, which was pretty much the beginning of the self-quarantining, the distancing ourselves 6 feet away, washing our hands, just common sense things. What would you like to tell the people of Arlington?
I think I would tell people in Arlington that they can stay calm, do the best they can to go on with their daily lives while heeding the guidance and advice that the town has issued. Read the CDC advice about hand washing and social distancing. Read the advice that we've put out in that regard. But otherwise, to stay calm, try to protect your neighbors as best possible. Protect yourself and your family as best possible. But take this seriously. This is very real. If we look to Europe, what's happened in Europe, if we look to China, we're putting measures in place that will hopefully protect us from getting there, but time will only tell if they've been effective. So I would urge people to stay calm while taking this as seriously as possible.
And lastly, is there anything you'd like to add? We'll probably be talking to you next week if you have time, or maybe later in the week. Is there anything you'd like to add?
I guess I would add that we're committed. We have people at the Health and Human Services working around the clock, paying attention to this. We're going to stay on top of this from now until we're out of the dark here. So if people need information, want information, they can reach us by email. They can call the Board of Health at 781-316-3170. And we're here to try to get every resident of Arlington through this as best possible.
Now, as you already know, Arlington schools are closed until at least the beginning of April, the first week of April at the very least. That could be extended because obviously, like everyone else, the town is taking this crisis day by day. Here is Assistant News Director Brenda Mahoney with the very latest on this angle of the story.
Brenda Mahoney for ACMi News here at Stratton Elementary School's playground, where, of course, playgrounds now have been closed. But it was just over a week ago when Stratton Elementary was reopened after its first COVID-19 case. It was cleaned, and those who came into contact with the person who had it were quarantined. Well, a lot has changed since then. The entire country pretty much closing their schools, even President Trump coming out and saying people should be homeschooled. And of course, we have the recommendation for people to not gather with more than 10 and to remain 6 feet apart. And that's even outside here in places where people can get out and get some fresh air when need be. The other thing to talk about with the schools is Superintendent Kathleen Bodie did send out information to parents, families of school children, ways that they can do enrichment activities. It's not actually being called distance learning, and there isn't any real connection with classrooms or anything at this point. We do have a question into Superintendent Bodie whether or not that would come down farther down the line. The Department of Education at the U.S. level did say that schools closing due to COVID-19 can have distance learning as long as it's accessible to those with disabilities. People have been coming out here, but they're staying their distance, and it's just families, not children, playing with other children. And people are telling me that they're just adjusting to this new schedule, as we all are. Some other ways, though, that kids are staying connected is they're rediscovering video calling, or discovering it for the first time themselves and really making use of that. And as well as there was a town-wide shamrock hunt that was posted on Facebook as well. And my own family had shamrocks on the windows already, so in honor of St. Patrick's Day. And so that's something fun that kids were going out and with families as well. Parents, anyone could take part and count how many shamrocks there are. So a way of still staying connected in a way that is safe as well. So another thing just to note as far as services, the food market pantry at Arlington Eats is still operating on Wednesdays. And we got this in from the Scouts troop in town, Scouts Troop 306. They raised around $1,000 and also a lot of good food for Arlington Eats market as well. So we'll have more information on the schools as things come in. In the meantime, stay safe. Brenda Mahoney, ACMi News.
Now, obviously, as Arlington residents hunker down and try to wade through all this major crisis, what the World Health Organization is calling a pandemic, businesses here in Arlington, mom and pop shops, restaurants, theaters, they're all taking a major hit. We send ACMi News correspondent Anima Osmani out to find out exactly how they're faring through these very difficult times, including some of the businesses who so far are hanging in there.
You'll find most of Arlington shops along the town's main corridor, Mass Ave, where there is an abundance of restaurants and mom and pop stores. But with all the unprecedented events surrounding what the World Health Organization is calling a planet-wide pandemic, Massachusetts Avenue has become eerily quiet in recent days as state and local health officials are encouraging everyone, if they can, to stay home and wait out this coronavirus crisis. Some Mass Ave businesses are temporarily closing down during the COVID-19 outbreak. Some are posting signs on their front doors giving valued customers information on when they may reopen and what services, if any, they can provide during this coronavirus outbreak. On Sunday, March 15th, Governor Charlie Baker placed new restrictions to combat the spread of COVID-19 by prohibiting on-site consumption at restaurants and bars and banning gatherings of 25 people or more.
Most of you know that last week we issued guidance prohibiting large gatherings of 250 people or more. Today we're amending that guidance under our emergency powers to prohibit gatherings of over 25 people. Subject to this order, these gatherings include all community, civic, public, leisure, faith-based events, sporting events with spectators, concerts, conventions, and any similar event or activity that brings together 25 or more people in a single room or a single space at the same time. This includes venues like fitness centers, private clubs, and theaters. With respect to restaurants, I am ordering that any restaurant, bar, or establishment that offers food or drink shall not permit on-premises consumption. These establishments may continue to offer food for takeout and for delivery.
The region and capital theaters are complying as well by rescheduling or canceling, if they have to, all shows on their calendar at least through May. Clearly, certain businesses will be taking an economic hit as Arlington weathers this pandemic. Some store owners will have to employ emergency measures just to get through the next few weeks. But it's uncertain whether all businesses affected will be able to stay afloat. That might not be the case for D'Agostino's, a well-known delicatessen grocery store in the Heights.
There's definitely been a frenzy. Business has been exceptionally good, obviously for the wrong reasons, and we seem to be handling it pretty well, and everyone has been handling themselves very civilly, and our customers have been great, and I think our staff has been great in handling the rush.
ACMi at 85 Park Ave is also following suit by taking necessary precautions to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. Scheduled shoots such as the town election debates and in-studio newscasts have been postponed until further notice, and most of the staff members are working from home, complying with the guidelines set forth by the Centers for Disease Control. Get the latest information of what Arlington is doing to minimize the impact of coronavirus. You can either go on the ACMi website at acmi.tv or the town page arlingtonma.gov. Town leaders are constantly updating those sites with the latest information. For ACMi News, I'm Anima Osmani.
Obviously, Arlington residents are very concerned about what's happening here. No one really knows how long this coronavirus is going to last. And that's cause for a lot of concern, a lot of worrying about neighbors and Arlington residents concerned about themselves and their own health. That means the Arlington Police Force has to adapt to this very unique situation. I spoke to Captain Richard Flynn of the Arlington Police Department and asked him basically how things are going to change for the police force as we all try to weather this crisis.
we're still trying to provide the services that we always do here, but we've made some modifications with some of our civilian employees, try to stagger some work hours and whatnot. So to try and really limit those in-person kind of, every time that people are working together, so we're separating some people, kind of creating some space, and trying to follow really what the state is saying to us, and asking people to use a little bit of common sense,
What are you doing as far as yourselves, just protecting yourselves? You deal with people
every day. So when I leave you here, I'll go up and I'll wash my hands, and I'll kind of disinfect and deodorize, and just try and have that kind of a mindset. Limit those interactions. We're a good distance apart right here, about 6 feet. Try to keep that in mind, and know your surroundings. Keep an eye out on anybody who might be coughing or look like they're not feeling well, and stay away from them if you possibly can.
What calls have you been getting in the last few days? I'm sure you have a lot of people nervous. We just saw someone who's quite
a little bit nervous, but something like that where someone is just trying to still carry on with their life, and a need to be able to drive and what have you. So, but what we're asking is people to kind of use that common sense. Any interactions with the police department that can be taken care of with a phone call or via an email or what have you, we ask that. We're trying to limit those face-to-face interactions as much as we possibly can. We can't do that completely, of course, but we are trying to do that and stay within the guidelines that the state and the CDC has put out for us.
The Arlington PD prides itself, as it well should, with community policing. What would you like to tell Arlingtonians?
We're still there. We're going to still provide the services that you've known. We're just going to try and incorporate, the guidelines that the state and the federal government has put out there and for us, along with a little bit of common sense. But we're still there. We're only a phone call away. Our officers are out in the street. They're going to be visible. They're going to be approachable. But we just ask that people use the precautions that have been put out there. And again, use a little bit of common sense.
This is a totally fluid situation. I've been in the business almost 40 years. I've never seen anything like this.
No, it certainly is, yeah.
As far as, let's say, next week, they're saying this is not the worst. It's going to get worse. So what are you doing to prepare?
Well, preparatively wise, we're working on some of our policies and whatnot, and our officers know that we're prepared that if we need to, change our work hours or what have you, that we're going to do that. Hey, we got to worry about the people that work here as well. So we're trying to keep them healthy, but we're also preparing that if we have a reduction in the workforce here, what are we going to do? We're going to need to change our shift hours, et cetera, et cetera. So we're pre-planning here as well. We're hoping that isn't the case, but we're planning for that.
Have you seen an uptick in phone calls, just people worried or concerned?
A little bit, but we've also seen a little bit of kind of things are kind of, look at, the roads are relatively quiet. Things are really slowing down. We're hoping that people are paying attention and just kind of staying home as much as possible, and hopefully, by doing that, they'll limit the interactions that they have with other people, limit the spread of this, virus, and hopefully it'll pass without any major, problems in our community and what have you with people's health. That's important.
What suggestions do you have for the community? Instead of maybe calling the police, what do you think they should do?
Well, of course, if you have an emergency, please call the police department. 911, call the police department. But there's a host of, what we call kind of low priority type calls or situations that you could call in, or you could go right online to the Arlington Police, Town of Arlington, Mass.gov, and you'll see, like reporting a bicycle larceny or, maybe an attempted scam or whatever. There's a host of reports that you can file online so that you don't necessarily have to come here or an officer come to your home. But if you do call an officer to your home, what we do ask is that you're abundantly honest with us. If someone is not feeling well, we would like to know that information ahead of time so that we can take precautions. So just, share that information with us. If someone in your home is not feeling well and you call a police officer to your home, please be upfront with us and let us know if someone is sick there so that we can be prepared for that.
Captain Flynn, thanks so much for your service and stay
Always
safe.
a pleasure, Jeff. Thank you very much.
Now, town leaders are encouraging everyone here in Arlington to just use good old common sense, wash your hands, practice social distancing, 6 feet or more from others, and if you are sick, please stay home. If you're able to do this, if you could take care of your neighbors or just watch out for them or watch out for your loved ones, that is also encouraged, quite obviously, because we're all in this together. Now, if you want to learn the very latest on the coronavirus, all you have to do is go to the town website. That's arlingtonma.gov. Again, that's arlingtonma.gov. acmi.gov. They are constantly updating new stories on the coronavirus here in Arlington. If you want to see the latest reports on what we're doing to cover the coronavirus crisis here in Arlington, all you have to do is go to our website, ACMi's website, acmi.tv. Again, that's acmi.tv. Click on newscasts, and in the upper left-hand corner, you're going to see a coronavirus link. You can click on that, and you'll get all the latest information that we have on the coronavirus throughout Arlington. If you want to learn more about how to take care of yourself or to take care of others, your loved ones, you can always go to the Centers for Disease Control website as well. That's cdc.gov. Again, that's cdc.gov. They're constantly updating everything on the coronavirus worldwide. So you have all the information right there at your fingertips. In the meantime, we will have the very latest on the coverage here on the coronavirus in Arlington when events warrant. So stay tuned to ACMi News. That'll do it for us for this special edition of ACMi News. Thanks so much for joining us. Take care of yourself, and please take care of others. Good night.
You can always check out our latest segments and newscasts on the web at acmi.tv/news. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ACMi News. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. You'll find us at youtube.com/ACMi News. If you have any news tips for us or wish to become a citizen journalist, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by ACMI Studio A at 85 Park Avenue.